Anand is completely collapsed in this game. Kasparov dominating the position. It's all over. Kasparov enjoyed making that move, knight to e4. He screwed the piece into the board, and Anand had had enough. He resigned.
Kasparov, champion of the world.
I don't see any player who could challenge me with clear chances of winning.
It's all over. It's Queen takes g4.
This is the deciding game of the Credit Suisse Blitz tournament held in Geneva in 1996. Although this was only a Blitz tournament, this particular game had a lot of significance. Anand had lost to Kasparov the previous year in the Chess World Championship held at the World Trade Centers, and really everyone expected Kasparov to crush Anand and take this title too.
They're repeating the opening from their first game where really Kasparov won a beautiful game, quite convincingly, and they're playing exactly the same way.
Is this position easier to play for white or black? This is often
he's pushed on with g4.
Before he played e6 first.
Oh, and Anand offering the pawn on b2. What happens? Knight takes b2,
rook b1,
rook b1, rook c8.
Queen c7. Knight d5.
No, rook c8 he can.
Oh, rook c8.
b3 has come all the same. Now, where does knight move back to?
Now where are you going? b4.
So here we have the first important move of the game. Anand plays knight to b4, which you can see is not the best move. Instead of knight to b4, he could have played this crazy looking knight to b6 move, attacking the rook and the bishop, but black can just take the knights for free, seemingly. However, there are some nasty tactics. After knight takes e6, discovery on the queen, attacking the bishop on the other side of the board, and there's no way to defend the bishop and the queen at the same time.
I think this is okay for Anand. Somehow, this knight on a3 looks very odd indeed.
It's getting critical very quickly. Knight down to d3. What do you think? Knight d3, maybe then bishop takes d4 and rook takes c2. And it's very risky. You're giving up your black squares for that pawn.
Queen's come to e1, defending the knight on b4, trying to hold his position together.
And then, well, who's got the worst place?
h4, Kasparov advancing those pawns again.
Obviously, you can't take an h4 because you lose the knight on d4. I suppose you can play c4 and then knight on a3 might look a bit silly later on.
Maybe rook d1, bishop e3.
He's trying to play.
Well, we're going to get the same structure. Pawn down to h3, then g3. He's done it. Well, we've almost got the same pawn structure as in that first game, and somehow, I was very sceptical about White's position in that game.
Knight takes b5. There's bishop takes b5, and both white rooks are on prise. So, okay, rook d1. Just bringing this centre. Now look, knight finds a better square. Knight c3. Oh, there's a pin. It's a temporary
but this list looks awful. I don't like the way Anand's.
Maybe you should play
this. This knight on c3 is tremendous, and now the rook on d1 is attacked. The pawn on e4 is attacked. I think Anand is in all kinds of trouble. This is a repeat performance of the first game. Look at Anand's king; it's wide open.
I think it was a mistake too. I think you should have sacked the exchange with knight f2 and picked up the g pawn in compensation.
Well, I just don't think you should have gone for this opening again. He obviously didn't have a clear improvement.
So I know this f6 move by Anand looks a little bit weird. You're just sacrificing another pawn and now you're down 2 pawns and black is doing great. But really, Anand didn't have any other options. He had to try and create some space for the knight to get to f5, and after takes, maybe he can try and get some compensation along the f file. But if he didn't play this pawn sacrifice, the only alternative here is to move the knight back to e2, which is such an ugly place for the knight to be. It has no squares at all. It would be better if that knight didn't exist. And hilariously, the engine agrees. The engine actually thinks that c4 is better. Just get rid of the knight. The knight is so trash. I hate that knight. That's what the engine thinks. And at least now you have some compensation along the e file. And yeah, black can defend, but at least it's something.
All sorts of funny things are happening here.
Knight f5. Okay, Anand has given up a couple of pawns, just trying to get some play, but it looks desperate. Queen c6, there we go. We've got the same mate thread again as the same as in the first game. Queen e2, defending against the mate, but This is pretty ugly.
Oh, Queen E4, that's a powerful move. Hitting the rook,
Then
pinning the bishop. There can be all sorts of exchanges.
Anand has completely collapsed in this game.
I think he should have. Oh, rook F2 is a better square because at least G2 is defended.
Knight D5 is horrible. Kasparov dominating the position.
That's right. I mean, just a series of exchanges and you've got a very nice ending. There's no longer any problems. Just take it off.
Kasparov,
take
two
it off.
pawns up, technically winning position. He's just exchanging pieces now. It's all over.
Put your king on a square like.
What's the Queen takes G4? What's he overlooked? This is incredible. The Queen on G4 attacking the rook on C8. Now Black's Queen is attacked on E3.
So here we have the critical moment in this game, the moment that Anand's PTSD with Kasparov was resolved. Kasparov plays, Queen takes E3, which on face value looks perfectly reasonable. After takes, Black is up 2 pawns in a bone-crushing endgame. But Kasparov missed this one tactic. Grandmasters hate this one trick. Queen takes G4, attacking the rook and attacking the queen at the same time. The rook is being held by the knight. It's actually a really beautiful position, this. And now Kasparov went from being in the driver's seat to being on the back foot, and he has to find a way to defend here. And in fact, the only way to defend is to give up the queen. After castles, Anand can pick up the queen, and he is objectively better.
He's castled, sacking his queen.
He should have played knight takes E3, and then he got the technical.
Well, how's the position? What an elementary blunder from Kasparov. He had a winning position, and now how is it? Well, completely unclear. Kasparov still has chances here. It was a rook and a bishop for the queen, but Anand moving the queen in.
Knight D4, maybe now E4 next move, and the idea of bringing the rook down the C5.
Oh, but Anand just munching these pawns. Good move. The queen on
Stopping
B7.
E4, stopping E4.
Covers the pawn on E4.
But rook C3. You've got to get active. Got to
Clock
get
time's
active.
1:45 for Anand, 2.5 minutes for Kasparov.
You've got to get active. Rook C3. Come on, get those pieces going. Double the rooks, maybe. Oh no, double rooks is disastrous. F7 drops.
Well, there's Knight C4 go. I think Kasparov is completely lost. What an extraordinary blunder.
Yes.
Yet an elementary oversight. I just cannot believe that move from Kasparov.
It's blitz, and in blitz all is fair.
Okay, Knight C4. There we go.
D5.
Pawns, now Queen takes,
Queen
Rook
D5,
takes Knight. Very
very
nice
pretty.
tactics. But Knight D6. What about Knight D6? Knight D6 looks good. There we go.
Knight E3 check. King H3. The king is pretty safe on this square. You can't get a rook to the
And
H
now
file.
F7 is caving in. And threatening Rook takes F7. F5, but
F5.
now his king
See,
is
only
very
hope.
exposed.
Queen to E7 or something? Queen to E6. At least there's some checks on the
Okay,
white
and now
side.
what about Rook F6?
F4.
He's played F4. Kasparov fighting for his life here.
Kasparov is incredible resources again. It's
Knight
amazing.
F7, Knight G5 check, and Queen G6 threatened. So Anand's now going on the attack.
That's right. And look at the times. 1 minute and a few seconds each.
Minute and a half, Kasparov, a minute.
Rook
Kasparov
F7.
has given up. And he's given it up, and now Rook F6. He gave up his rook to get some play, but
It's murky, but what can you do with E4 followed by Rook H6 with some sort of perpetual play?
F5.
That's cutting things down.
Good move.
D4. Get those D4s going. Kasparov's managed to get
And
incredible
now
resources.
how is Rook F4, Queen E7? He just wants to play Queen takes pawn on E4. Kasparov glancing at the clock. He's under a minute. But Anand only has 47 seconds left.
47
Can
is
he actually win
55,
this?
54. Incredible stuff. Rook H6 check. King goes to G3. Can you find a move then? You're a bit restricted.
Play Rook H6, King G3.
Knight.
F1, Knight D1. What's this? He's
Hitting
attacking
a
the rook.
Rook F4. Maybe if White's threatening Rook G4, that would be end of the world. Rook G4 and wins.
Rook G4. That looks over, and he's resigned. Extraordinary.
So after putting up a respectable fight here, Kasparov resigned once Anand threatened mate in one by playing rook to G4. In fact, there's very little black can do here, just a few spite checks. And once those are out of the way, no matter what black does, it's going to be mate in one on G7. And what a wonderful and important game for Anand's career. Getting his hands on the trophy in a high-stakes situation would have really helped redeem himself after the previous year's loss to Kasparov. And although Kasparov continued his dominance in chess throughout the 90s, this game would have given Anand the confidence of knowing he was able to beat the best and maybe even become world champion himself one day.